All right, we welcome Coach Dorrell to the stage. He'll give an opening comment here, and then we'll open it up to Q&A. Again, the microphone is here in the back. If you have a question, go ahead and just step back there. State your name and affiliation, and make sure you speak up so he can hear you clearly. Coach, go ahead.
All right, thank you. I love the intro music, so props to the crew doing that. Welcome to the media day. Karl Dorrell here, the head football coach of Colorado. Excited about a new season. Excited about a new opportunity that's in front of us, and to build off of the process that we're building in Colorado. Challenging season a year ago for us. We played with a lot of young players. I believe we had 68 freshmen and sophomores on our football team that were playing primarily. I think we've made a lot of progress, even though it lacked in terms of the number of wins. But we did gain a lot of experience through the process of training and developing young players for them to have a chance to compete at that level and to use that experience to develop going into this season in 2022. Like I said earlier, we're very disappointed in the results of our season. And the way that I operate as a coach in my 34 years of coaching is that when things aren't right, you got to make things right. And so I don't ever try to celebrate a lack of successful seasons. So we had to make some changes. I made changes primarily on the offensive side. I have 4 new coaches there that are here, and they've done a great job of reinvigorating and reinventing our offense. Along with that, the development of the quarterback position, I think, was very critical too, for us to have more competition and more suitors for that position. If you guys remember, I had 2 scholarship quarterbacks for the last 2 years. My first year in 20 and the 2 last year in 22 or 21. Now that room has 6 scholarship quarterbacks, so it's good to have more numbers there and more competition in that room, which is going to push the envelope for that position to play much better as well. So it's a big change on the offensive side. We did change our offense completely from scratch. It's a new system. So we're excited about that process of how the players have taken that information, the offensive players I'm talking about, and digested it and performed it and continued to do that over a process of time between the off season, during spring, now in the summer, and finishing up the summer. It was a really good summer for them to kind of continue to develop and to mature in terms of being in that system. We do have a couple of new additions on the defensive side as well. New corners coach. We have a new defensive line coach. The other 3 coaches are still here. But, we feel like there are some things that were needed to be done in the off season for us to make the incremental steps of success, moving forward. The season a year ago was disappointing. Obviously, that changed a lot of dynamics within our program. Obviously, the portal is part of everybody's process and what they deal with, year in and year out. It's going to be kind of a natural process of, I would say, attrition that's going to happen year in and year out. It's been affecting all of us. It affected us as well. But the positive of that was that we were able to build our team, with some guys that are like-minded, with players that are on the same page, with a staff that has been very invested in these young people. So we've come where it's come full circle with our effort, attitude, work ethic, determination. Everything you want to think of is all moving in the right direction. So I feel like from the process of the off season and spring and then a great summer that we just finished up today, we're ready to go for 2022.
All right, we'll open up to questions. Again, state your name and affiliation and speak up in the mic. Thank you.
Coach Lynn Harrington with Stay Alive in Power 5. How you doing? Right here, man.
Okay, there you go.
All right. I got a 3-part question for you. First off, I want to start off with your quarterback, Brandon Lewis. Can you briefly describe his maturation process? I mean, I know he struggled a little bit with throwing the ball last season, but can you explain some of his improvements, with the new offensive coordinator and learning a new scheme approaching fall camp?
Absolutely. So Brandon Lewis was our starter a year ago, started 12 games, started and played and stayed healthy for 12 solid games last year. And the best part of that is that he played for 12 games for us last year. He had he can use that as a year of being the starter. gaining so much experience about playing in the Pac-12 and particularly some of the non-conference games we had. And I would say this in answering your question, the first thing he came to me after the season is that he went back and watched all of the games just by himself and made notes and critiques about what he could have done better and what he did well and what he needs to improve on. So he went through that process for himself, at the end of the season. And, to his credit, he's invested a lot of time and blood, I would say sweat equity this last offseason to develop into being a better quarterback than where he was last fall. And there's no question in my mind and his mind, he's not even the same player. And, it's like anything. You gain from that experience, whether it's good or bad, you learn from that experience. That's what Brendan was able to do, and he had a great spring where his efficiency and his numbers and his accuracy in throwing would look much, much better. Continue that into this summer. So I'm excited to watch him when we go into training camp next week.
All right. My second part to the question is about your other quarterback, J.T. Shroud. Can you describe, his recovery process from the injury and getting back into throwing drills? And do you expect him to make a big push in competition heading into fall camp?
Yes, we're hoping that he's healthy and ready to go, which he is. He was somewhat healthy this spring, but we held him back. We didn't want him to do any competitive scrimmage-like scenarios for him in the springtime, but he did the 7-on-7s. He was still working on some conditioning and some movement drills, so I stand corrected. He might have been maybe 90, 95%. He's completely 100% right now. He does everything that everybody does in terms of their summer training. So he's ready to go. I would say with JT, his challenge is JT. I would say that just because he hasn't played the game in a year, it's just him getting antsy, understanding the competition of it all, stuff like that. He just needs to come out here and perform really and do the things that are just comfortable for him to do, kind of get back into the rhythm of being sore and being beat up and stuff like that he's been missing for the last year and a half. Those are things that he's going to have to kind of take it day by day. But we are excited that he is healthy. He's ready to go. He should push the envelope a little bit. I'm excited about the competition. So it's going to help us be a better offense.
And my last question is, can you briefly just discuss the competition in your running back room, with Alex Fontenot and then the other rushers? Can you just briefly discuss each?
Sure. So we got two returning guys that were key players from a year ago. Deion Smith played later in the year last year, but Alex Fontenot, who was kind of a stable player for us. Even when I first got here, my first year in 2020, he had a great 2019 season. That 2020 season, he had an injury that took the rest. He didn't get a chance to play in the 2020 season with the injury of that year. But then last year, he did get a chance to get some playing time, but he did have some soft tissue injuries that kind of delayed his production a little bit throughout the season. But those are the top two between Alex and Deion. Both of them had great off seasons. Both of them are over 200 pounds, which was kind of one of those mandates that I wanted them both to be, is to get a little bit more muscle, girth and depth in terms of those things. So, they look better physically. They've digested the offense. They understand that both of them are kind of our leaders of being the 1-2 punch for us offensively. We do have some good younger players, though, that'll be kind of, fighting to get some playing time, but it's going to be led by those two. And it's a hungry group. It's a hungry group. They understand with Jarek Broussard moving on and going to, graduating and moving on, that, now it's their chance to really rise and shine, and that they're excited about that opportunity.
Thanks, Coach.
Thank you.
Billy Witz with the New York Times. Karl, I want to ask you a question, not as a Colorado football coach, but as a UCLA alum and former player. How did you feel about their move to the
I knew that was coming up. It was probably shocking. It was my first impression. It was shocking. Being in this conference for over 100 years, it's kind of, I would say that was the first initial impression, was that. But you got to also recognize that when I came back to Colorado in 2020, COVID hit 3 weeks later. I mean, it was a lot of things that have been challenging and changing for me every year. So it was like, what was one more thing? You know, what's one more thing? Guys leaving the conference. So it's just, I think it's that time things are evolving, you know, in college athletics. And, you know, some things that have been grandfathered in, so to speak, you would think, or, you know, everything has susceptibility to change. And, you know, there's certain things that happen, and, you know, this is a situation that, you know, this has happened. But as humans and as we all evolve throughout the years, you know, we'll evolve and adapt and move forward. But it was shocking, I would say.
Has it, just in, I guess, the last month or so, the conversations you might have had with, you know, your former teammates and just, you know, guys of your era as a player, has it come up, and what might those conversations have been like?
Well, there's question marks. It's like there's a question mark above my head, you know, about, well, what does that mean, and what does that look like, you know, moving forward? We all don't know. You know, we don't know what that's going to look like, you know, moving forwards. But you know, I wish them the very best. You know, obviously, you know, that's a school that has made me into who I am today, you know, as a coach. And, you know, I don't wish them any ill will or anything. We want them to be successful, and obviously that's something that's part of my background. But right now there's an unknown feeling about what is it going to look like, you know, all those things that will come together in time.
Thanks.
All right, thank you.
Hey, Coach. Jamal Madney, Los Angeles Football Network. As you enter year 3 of your tenure here with the Buffs, what are some things that maybe you've learned about yourself as a head coach, strategically, culturally, recruiting-wise, that maybe you can take from your first go-around in the conference as head man at UCLA?
Well, it's actually tremendously different than that go-around, just because, you know, with social media, which wasn't prevalent at that time, that's the major draw that's going on now. NIL is kind of a bigger thing that wasn't around. So there's been a number of things that have changed in terms of the dynamics in recruiting and coaching and things like that. And, you know, the other part too is that, you know, I've learned in a great deal of time since my UCLA experience, a great deal of information about, you know, coaching. So, you know, I've had some people in my background that have helped me become better at what I do as a communicator, as a guy that teaches, and obviously in terms of the organization of things. So, you know, I would say going into year 3 for me right now, and I mentioned that statement that I don't rest on mediocrity. I don't rest on things that aren't successful. You have to make changes, and I think those are the things that I was able to do. I was fortunate enough to do with my athletic director being on the same page with me. And so we need to challenge ourselves year in and year out about being successful and trying to put your best effort forward year in and year out. That's what our players are expecting us as coaches to be. And that's what that's kind of how we are charged as a program, is to be in the competitive marketplace in this sport. And we haven't done that yet. So we're still pushing ourselves to get into that marketplace. And we think that this year is going to be a good testament at going into year 3 of really showing some of that progress that has been made over these last couple of years.
Thanks, Coach.
How's it going, Coach? Keiji Patterson, the Daily Emerald. Nate Landman has kind of been the anchor of your defense for the past few years. I just wanted to hear your thoughts on what goes into replacing a guy of that caliber.
Yeah, that's challenging, as you know. You know, you have a great player in any position, and Nate's been a great player for us. You know, prior to even me being here, you know, he's been a great player, and he's going to be a great player on the next level. But it's like most things, is that you try to utilize some of his thoughts and mindsets of using some of that experience when he was a teammate last year, of giving some of that information to our guys that are still here in the program. So it's hard to replicate that other than what Nate can do. And Nate has done a great job of being back home when he's here in the offseason. Matter of fact, he was here about a month ago in June, and has spent about 2 weeks here training and being around our guys and telling them about their experience, his experience with the Falcons, and and telling them about what he should have done better here at Colorado, that he was pointing to the players to pick up where he left off. So I think he's done the best thing that any former player can do, was to help set the stage for the next group. And so we feel we're in great shape. We feel that the depth at the linebacker position is the best it's been since I've been here. And we think that the quality of talent at that position is much, much better too. So there's some guys that are just no names for us, but we did add a couple guys. You're going to have a guy that I brought here, talk to you later, in Robert Barnes. He's one of those linebackers. We added another one from the transfer portal with Josh Chandler, who is also here. So he's not here, but he's in our program. So we've added a couple of veteran pieces, but collectively that position is actually a lot stronger than it's been, since I've been here.
Follow-up question. You've had a group of athletes nominated as preseason all-conference players, one of them being Quinn Perry, who's in that linebacker room. Can you just talk about your expectations for Quinn and how he's worked this offseason and how he could improve going forward?
Absolutely. Quinn has had a really good offseason, and he's trying to change his body. He's trying to look more athletic and look like a prototypical linebacker. I think the best thing that for Quinn, and this is something that's a testament to Nate. Nate has taken Quinn under his arm last year when Nate got hurt, to help, because Quinn had to finish the season at his position and really help, his progress, as the season unfolded towards the end there. So hopefully he'll carry some of that information that Nate was able to express with him and be coached and continue to physically develop and have a tremendous year this year. It's good to get a little recognition, early on for him, from his efforts from a year ago, but he's doing everything that he should be doing for him to have a successful year. So, everything now is just in front of him staying healthy and doing what he's capable of becoming.
Thank you, Coach.
You got it.
Hello, Coach. Kenneth Berry, Touchdowns and Tangents. In regards to the senior class that you have, how important have they been for you? Since COVID happened and right now, and even people transferring out the program, how important is that senior class?
It's a great question, and it's probably a unique question, and because they did come in and look at, let's reverse the lens here. When I came here in 2020, I was probably their third coach or fourth, who knows? And they survive a COVID season with a lot of change that we all talked about and know about. They go into last year with some expectations that, we didn't get a chance to meet. But I think they understood where we were heading from a cultural standpoint. So they're a big mouthpiece for us now. And I'm very indebted to these seniors because they had to buy into my message at this point in time for them to have the type of goals and aspirations set for themselves this season. And they've done a tremendous job. They really have. But I don't take that lightly, just because when I said on the onset of that question, or answer for that question, is that I'm their third coach. And it's hard to build that trust in such a short period of time. Who do you trust? This is the third guy, And I think that I have to give them credit for giving me the opportunity to build this program, and them spreading that message in the way that they're doing it is helping us become the team we're capable of becoming this year.
And when you look at teams that you've coached in the past that may have exceeded expectations, or even most historically, like your UCLA team that went on to beat Oklahoma, had all that great success, what do you see from this team that compares to past teams that you've coached? That's
a great reference, what you just mentioned there. That was like year 3 at UCLA for me, that year that you're talking about when we beat Oklahoma here at the Rose Bowl. So, I'm expecting that jump for us this year. We have a great foundation. The foundation's there. Now we're building the talent, we're building the room, building the roster. So I believe you're going to see a quality team this year, a team that's going to be very competitive, a team that's going to win more games than they won a year ago. Now, that's contrary to the feeling that's in the room, but that's the expectations that we have. We think we have a chance to be a very successful team. But we have to start with week one, and we got to take care of business and do the things we're capable of becoming. But I think the maturity in this program, particularly from the leadership, the older players, are much stronger than they were a year ago. So we have a chance to meet the goals and expectations we set for ourselves.
Thanks, Coach.
Thank you.
Have about 5 more minutes with Coach here.
Josh Newman, Salt Lake Tribune. Karl, what makes Utah so tough to play, and why are they worthy of being the pick to win the league?
I think Kyle is an outstanding coach. I've known Kyle since my UCLA days, and we played against Utah, and I think we split those games, and we lost in Utah and we beat them in our place. But he's an experienced, accomplished coach that knows what it takes to win. And he's been doing it for a number of years, and that's why he's still there. So I have a lot of respect for what they've done, in this conference, and now being members of this conference and being, we're in the position they are. They've done a tremendous job. So I would say it's because there's continuity. There's obviously a guy at the helm that I have a tremendous amount of respect for, and he's got a great staff, and they recruit, and so they do things right. So I would give him, those are part of the reasons why they are who they are.
And just to follow that up, with the continuity, what does it do for a quarterback when he has the same offensive coordinator for his entire career like Cam Rising has now with Andy Ludwig?
Continuity means if you can keep continuity, it really is, it's like in the stock market over time. That's probably a bad reference, but probably over time, historically, you come out on the better end. That's what people say. Am I saying that right? You people that are involved in the stock market. Can't say it right now, but it seems like it's pretty challenging. But the point of the matter is continuity, there's a better chance correlation, of that's going to be a consistent factor for success.
Thank you, Karl.
Thank you.
Have time for one more?
Hi, Coach. Ron Milhorn from Colorado West Broadcasting. What do you foresee, given the massive changes in college football in the last 2 years, what do you foresee as the biggest challenges as a coaching staff in terms of recruiting and retention of top players?
That's obviously the retention of players is challenging because of the ability that's allotted for these guys to transfer. And I think it's a positive thing. I'm not saying that's a bad thing, but it's something that makes it a challenging proposition when you're managing a program. I would say the other part too is them having a chance with NIL to continue to build on their brand. Those are challenging. Both of those realms of the portal and NIL is going to make everyone's leader of every program feel like they have to balance their roster each and every year. That's going to be challenging. Thank goodness that the NCAA has given us the latitude of just taking away the initials in terms of scholarships each year, because they're allowing you now to replace what you've lost, and sometimes those numbers are more than what the initials were. Now that that's thrown away and is allowing us to balance our 85 scholarships, that gives us a chance to, to be full force by the start of every season. So there's challenges. There's absolutely challenges. But, just like the thing with the conference realignment, I think we kind of move on and adapt and, find a way to do it correctly, and things will be fine. So it's just getting comfortable with the changes that are in front of us.
Thank you.
We'll squeeze one last one in here.
Dennis Freeman, News for Us Online. Coach, how is your program helping your student athletes navigate the NIL?
How is the program navigate? Say that one more time.
How is
please.
your program helping student athletes navigate NIL?
We're doing it in as best fashion as we can. It's one of those things. We do have, we call it influencer exchanges and programs that are within our department that are setting the table for NIL for our student athletes. So we're doing some very proactive work with getting them established through the process. Now, the challenging part of it is that we can't actually make deals for them. You know, they can't be the broker between this guy and this player. You know, we can't do those things, but we can give them all the information they need to put them in position to have that type of exchange, if that makes sense. So it's making progress, I would tell you. I would say that's probably the right way to say it, is that because it's new for everybody, we are making progress in that area, but we need to continue to move forward in that area as we keep going forward, you know, through this thing.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Coach. Appreciate your time.
All right, thank you.